So today I just want to talk about the ins and outs of the Punk engine. The Punk archetype is a bunch of level 3 psychic tuner monsters, a couple of level 8 monsters. I think there's a level 5 coming out at some point, that doesn't really matter. And then a bunch of spell traps that revolve around tutoring out their level 8 fusion and their level 11 synchro, which you'll never see or use ever. Uh, I just want to start by going over the cards that you'll see, the cards in the archetype, mainly the ones you'll see, the ones you'll sometimes see, and the ones you'll never even use, even in a dedicated Punk deck. So just getting started, you have the Ukiyo-e Punk Shirasai, the Crash Beat, the Wild Picking, and the Rising Carp. These are the 4 cards you're never going to see used anywhere. Not even in in a Punk dedicated strategy, you'll see these 2, but realistically, you'll never really use these cards ever. The Sakurasai, he's used to synchro and or fusion. I believe on your opponent's turn, he fusion summons, and on your turn, he synchro summons. Oh, sorry, flip that. The Crash Beat and the Wild Picking mainly are used to protect your cards, but they're not really helpful in terms of removal or things of that nature. And then you have Rising Carp, and Rising Carp really is, you contribute it to special 2 Punk monsters from your hand or deck, which is cool in a dedicated Punk strategy, but having to fusion summon it using 2 Punk monsters, which means you're pretty much either using this guy or using Polly, it's not really all that helpful. And then, it doesn't do anything really in the graveyard. Yeah, doesn't do anything in the graveyard. You could use it as a synchro material. You probably aren't. Let's be honest, you really aren't. Yeah, it's iffy. You'll never really want to or need to use it. So we'll just move that trash out of the way. Now we're going to move to the cards that you'll sometimes see, including the ones that I actually would recommend you use, which are the trap cards, Dangerous Gabu and Nashiwari Surprise, as well as Madam Spider and Ukiyo-e Punk Amazing Dragon. Now, the 2 trap cards are actually really useful, and that's mainly because of the fact that they're searchable using Madam Spider's ability. And one thing to remember with Punks is that all of their abilities cost 600 life. That may not come up in games 1 or 2, but when you're going into time, you have to be really aware of that. And I find that if that's in that case, these are actually easy side outs, but we'll get to that. So Dangerous Gabu is your Imperm. Nashiwari Surprise is kind of like an MST because without a Punk monster on the field, it only really hits set cards. Madam Spider, like I said, it searches you out of Punk's trap, so it'll search you one of these 2. If you activate a Punk card or effect and Madam Spider is still for some reason on the field and targets a card your opponent controls, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls in half its attack. Not really all that useful, but on the bright side, it's a little something you'll never really use that secondary effect. And then Ukiyo-e Punk Amazing Dragon is actually a really good pivot monster. It's 3028, but in reality it's probably going to be 36 because most of the time you're going to be making it with Psychic Wielder, and I'll explain that in a second. On summon, it targets cards up to your opponent controls up to the number of Psychic type tuner monsters in the grave, and returns them to and bounces them back to hand. It's like Baxia. Like, it's very good at clearing boards, or at the very least baiting out negations because it'll threaten the board. Alternatively, if you summon it turn 1, you can actually target a Punk monster in your graveyard and special summon it. There's actually a combo that uses this that ends on the level 11 synchro on a board in your typical board, but it also adds one of these 2, and when a Punk monster is on the field, Nashiwari Surprise has the ability to pop any card on the field, and Dangerous Gabu also gains life equal to the attack of the monster it's negating. It's not a big benefit, but it really, like, it makes Nashuari Surprise a much better card, and Dangerous Gabu just gets an added benefit that you'll never really use, but you'll see it. And then finally, you have the punk cards you're actually going to use. So you're going to see Foxy Tune very often, Zayamin, and then also, you know, E-Telly, Psychic Wielder, Psychic Tracker, and Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Now, these punk monsters have effects where these two punk monsters have effects that tutor out your two monster engine. Zayamin says pay 600, add a punk monster to hand. Most likely that monster is going to be Foxy Tune. Foxy Tune has two effects. You can either tribute a punk monster on the field to special summon her, or you can send her from hand or field to graveyard with another card from your hand to special summon another punk monster from the deck. A lot of times you'll see, especially in the Sword Soul Punk variant, that they will summon Zayamin, add a Foxy Tune, pitch a card with the Foxy Tune to summon another Zayamin, link one into an Almirage, and then they have Needle Fiber combo, or if they have the 10U monsters still in, they can special level 7 summon the Zayamin, and they have their Baron. That's neither here nor there. I want to really point out that there are actually many ways you can use this engine, not just for Needle Fiber, and you'll see in a few minutes. This engine is why I believe that E-Telly both should not have gone back to 3 and should probably be used in everything. With E-Telly and any level 3 or level 3 extender, you have access to not only help, you have access to every good Link 2 monster in the game. Even the Link 2s that are not generic, you can sometimes find ways of getting into. Wielder and Tracker are going to be your main extenders, typically because Wielder as an extra tuner allows you to double into Amazing Dragon, or it allows you to get into Needle Fiber if you're not playing something like All Mirage, or you're not playing that 10E Sword Soul. Psychic Tracker is just another good level 3 extender. It's just, you know, it's added monsters to your hand. And then Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit's actually a very good tech, because a lot of times what will happen is that you'll open with a Zayamin, a teleport, and an extender. So what you'll do is you'll actually emergency teleport out your Ghost Ogre going second, so that when you actually start your combo, if they activate an effect, you can send the Ghost Ogre from your field to destroy that monster. At the very least, they get a monster off the field, but even better, chances are you'll be able to get 2 negations for the price of, you know, 1 Ghost Ogre. Yeah, that's really all the monsters. And I realize now that there's one that kind of deserves an honorable mention, and it's Ogre Dance. Ogre Dance is similar to Foxy Tune, but it doesn't special summon the monster from the deck. You can discard it just to add another punk monster to your hand. You could also tribute it to special summon itself. You're never actually going to use that effect, and it's mainly because it doesn't, you know, what's the point of special summoning it to then send it from field to grave? You know, you just kind of, you net 1 loss. So I would relegate this to punk only strategies, but it's not a bad card at all. Very often you're going to see it in 10E Sword Soul, where, you know, they make the basic combo. You know, they summon the Zayamin, they search the Foxy Tune, they pitch something with the Foxy Tune, they get another Zayamin, and then they link one into something, and then turn these 2 into how can they make their combo without, you know, etc. But what I want to point out is that it's actually just a very good Link 2 engine. Especially if you open with something like Emergency Teleport plus one of these 2. And it's mainly because if you Emergency Teleport and they don't Ash Blossom you, you get the Zayamin. You use the Zayamin's effect to add the Foxy Tune, but you also get your Wielder or your Tracker, whichever one. If you get your Wielder, you can actually tribute the Zayamin for your Foxy Tune, and then you can sink for 11 to make your Ukiyo-e Amazing Dragon. You can use his effect to actually revive the Foxy Tune, and then use Foxy Tune, you pitch another card from your hand, and you can get another punk monster prop. I choose Madam Spider because Madam Spider is able to get you either your Gabu or your Nashiwari Surprise. In that situation, I'll probably just grab Gabu because there's no guarantee that he'll stay on the field. You can still special your Tracker, and then you turn these two into, well, this is how, I mean, look at just this, you know, you have him on board, and he's 36 because Psychic Wielder, if you synchro someone with him, he gains 600 attack. But separate from him, putting him and the Dangerous Gabu to the side, you have Hulk, you have Cherubini, you have Proxy F Magician for those playing Cyberse decks in general. You have Asa, the Earth Charmer, which I don't have a copy of. You can actually link, depending on how you play this, you can actually turn one of these monsters, if you have a normal summon, which typically you won't because you'll have normal summoned Zeamin. But if you open with E-Tel and you E-Tel out that Zeamin, you can actually normal summon this Tracker instead of special summoning it, link it into Almirage. You have Hida. And you just kind of go from there. If you have, you can link this for Secure Gardener. You have Lina. You can turn, you can keep going. You can turn these two into the Wind one, etc. It's just a very good way of having two extra monsters to get into a combo piece. The only qualm about it that most people would probably have is that it does take a little bit of your hand. So this is more of a going first engine. That being said, you could also turn those same two monsters into a rank 3 engine. I started with Zeamin or E-Telly and an extender. You can still E-Telly out the Zeamin, and mind you, this can still be your normal summon. You can E-Telly out the Zeamin, pay 6 to add the Foxy Tune. You still special out your Tracker, and then you from here you can just exceed summon into, say, Salaman Great Mirage Stallion or Dante or Ghost Trick Alucard, or even you can even go into Leviair if you're really like that far into your combo and this is somewhere in the middle. The only thing is that if you're somewhere in the middle, you probably won't have the cards in hand to do all that. But there's just so many ways of getting into your combos just because you have access to the Zeamin through the E-Telly. If E-Telly weren't at 3 and you were forced to summon Zeamin, it's still a decent engine, but it is not a great one. But with three E-Telly, you are liable not only to see Zeamin. If you open multiple E-Telly, it's not once per turn. You can Zeamin, search out the Foxy Tune for later, and then you can E-Telly out the extender you may not even have in hand. You still haven't used your normal summon. You still have cards in hand to play the game with. There's just so much you can get into just because of the fact that E-Telly's at 3. I kind of want to talk about, Madam Spider a little bit more because a lot of people are only playing 2 copies of Zeamin and then the 1 copy of the Foxy Tune, mainly because the 3 emergency teleports because, it's just such a solid engine and you don't need to pay the extra 6 for the Gabu or the Pop. But I want to actually talk about the Madam Spider more because of the fact that these 2 cards are actually much better for decks that can't pump out those stupid Halka Fiber exports, either because the player can't afford it, or maybe you just can't, or maybe you just can't get into it. Because if, let's say, you summon Madam Spider, you search the card out, and then the rest of your plays get stopped, you can set one of these 2 cards, and you have the ability to pop anything or at the very least an Imperm, And you're still in a deck. We're still in a format where you're playing hand traps, or you're playing chalices or forbidden droplets. You can activate this and then respond with, and then if they have a response, you activate forbidden droplets. You can send these two to the grave. Their monsters attacks, you negate cards, attacks are halved, you've gotten rid of something. I think just it's a decent removal engine just because of the fact that you can sit there and you can pair them up with just about anything. With that being said, there's also the fact that I think Amazing Dragon's actually a really good card, just pivoting into that same idea. It's Baxia but bigger. But what I like about it is that even though it's bigger than Baxia, it has that second effect where you can revive one out the grave just like Baxia, but you don't have to destroy a card to do so. And I think that free real estate is actually really helpful. The only thing that sucks is that it's only on Synchro Summon that you get to bounce that card back. So going second, this is your option. Going first, you can still go into this, but it's a little bit weaker because all it gives you the ability to do is to revive your Foxy Tune or your Madam Spider, whatever's in the graveyard. But, even still, 36 is a house, or even 3,000 if you can't make it with Psychic Wielder is a house. And, again, if you line it up with one of these in the back row, this is a house with an extra pop where you're gaining life and negating effects. You're getting a lot of real estate off of just having this monster on the field. I kind of want to talk about the price point because it's actually really cheap. So thinking about it, let's say this, you buy a box of the Grand Creators. In a typical box of the Grand Creators, you're going to actually pull 6 copies of Emergency Teleport or something around it. Either way, you'll have your playset of Emergency Teleport. It's a super, so you might have one Xayah, you might not. You ideally probably want to have 2 or 3. Same with Madam Spider, you'll probably have one or two, and you probably only really want 1. And then, there's no guarantee you'll pull Foxy Tune or the Amazing Dragon or, any of these cards. But the engine is really, really cheap. I mean, look at this. These Emergency Teleports, if you were to just buy them as singles, they're 30 cents, maybe less. Eventually, these things will probably jump up to $2. Emergency Teleport, as long as it stays at 3, is probably going to become the new Allure of Darkness. So you're talking, what, $1? Nashiwari Surprise is 10 cents. Gabu, I think, is maybe $2, probably a little bit less. You have Madam Spider, which is the same as Gabu. Probably less, actually. It's probably more close to $1.50. You have Xayah. Xayah's, I think, $1 to $2 now because of the popularity with the Sword Soul engine. And then you have Foxy Tune, and Foxy Tune is probably the most expensive piece of this because Foxy Tune is, I think, $9 now, and you ideally you want to play 3 Foxy Tune. And then, I mean, things like Psychic Wielder and Psychic Tracker, you're looking at maybe, these both come as rares and Grand Creators too, so you're only really getting them for 10 cents as well. If you want to play the Ukiyo-e, the Amazing Dragon, that's $2, maybe $3. You want to play Ghost Ogre, I think Ghost Ogre might go up, but if you were smart and you picked up maybe if you picked up Dual Devastator, you probably have 1 or 3 Ghost Ogres. And I mean, Ghost Ogre is actually a pretty good card in this format. So, that might help too. And I think Ghost Ogres go for they probably range for between $2 to $5. And I mean, you don't have to worry about the rest of those cards, right? I mean, yes, you can play the Ogre Dance. I don't think it's worth playing the Ogre Dance. Ogre Dance is basically just extra copies of Emergency Teleport, except now you have to normal summon the Xayah. Or if you have the Xayah, it's an extra copy of Foxy Tune, except you could have just cut it. You don't really need to play it. But I feel like eventually, if they keep supporting this archetype, you want to pick this up too, because it'll search the pieces that come up that'll be more helpful, or it'll pick up your Zeah Mints very quickly. Now, compare that to the Brave engine. You have Enchantress. Enchantress is going on $60. Now you have Fateful Adventure, which is you only need one, and it's probably closer to like $5 maybe. Wandering Griffin Rider's $1. Dracoback is maybe 10 cents, like normal. But the fact, and then you have Rite of Artemisia, and that's another $40. But the issue is that you need 3 of her, 3 Rite, and then 1, 2, and 3. In contrast, you need 1 Foxy Tune, 2 to 3 Zeah Min, 3 Telly, and then maybe 1 Spider and 1 Gabu. And mind you, you can expand this engine to play 3 of this, and 3 of this, and 3 of this, and 2 of this, and 1 of this, and a bunch of different ways. And altogether, you're probably spending for this engine maybe a fraction of what, maybe the same amount that you're paying for 1 Enchantress. Maybe an Enchantress, and maybe this value exactly is the same as this value if there were a second one of this. No, sorry, 2 more of this, 2 more of this, etc. It's very cost efficient, and it's better for players that just don't have that brave token budget. So yeah, that's the Punk engine. I'm gonna show you the variant that I've come up with. It's a Phantom Knights variant that uses the Punk cards in combo to make the plays that I've just shown. The only thing is that it doesn't, I don't play the Hawk engine, I don't play, Dark or anything like that, and I don't play DPE, but even then, depending on the hand you get, you can really play very well. So let's see. Starting off, Wielder, Tracker, Gloves, and Madam Spider. So this hand is okay. It's not the worst hand in the world, but even then, watch this. You normal Madam Spider. If it gets ashed, it gets ashed. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. You add yourself a Gabu, or because I actually have a Fog Blade and I'm playing Phantom Knights, and you can actually add the Nashiwari Surprise. I wouldn't, because of the fact that I don't have a way to get to the Foxy Tune, so I'm gonna add the Gabu. You can then special to Tracker, special to Wielder. You link these 2 away into Cherubini like normal, and you go about your combo the same way. You can even use Cherubini. You can send down the Staingreaves. You banish the Staingreaves. You special the Ragged Gloves. You can turn these 2. You make Rusty Bardiche, which you can make Rusty Bardiche. Use Rusty's effect. You can now dump your Torn Scales to set your Fog Blade. And mind you, this is with full knowledge that you have a Fog Blade in hand. So you're sitting there. You can banish you can now banish your Torn Scales. You banish Ragged Gloves to send Ancient Cloak. You special Torn Scales. You can use Torn Scales effect because you have a Fog Blade already, and you're most likely gonna end up with another one. You can actually pitch this to send. And usually here you want to send you have almost all of your cards in rotation, so you send the Wing. You can turn these 2 into Leviair to get back your monster. You turn both of those into Leviair, you detach, you bring back one of these. It doesn't matter which, because you're going to banish with Wing. You're going to bring back the Torn Scales, turn into a second Leviair. And then you can detach I would detach the Gloves. I don't want Torn Scales engraved just yet. To bring back the Staingreaves. You turn these 2 cards. These 2 will go to grave. You go into your Utopic Future package. You keep that set. And then mind you still have the ability to, banish your Ancient Cloak to add your Silent Boots. You can special your silent boots. You can turn these two into break sword. You use Rusty to pop the break sword, you know, the same as always, and then use break sword's effect. You want to leave the boots engraved, so you're going to bring back the ragged gloves and probably the stained greaves. You can turn these two, so you have a couple of options here. You can, you would prefer to turn these two into Requiem and then banish the boots to add the rank up magic. But because of what you have engraved, I would actually say it might be better to go into a different rank 4 instead. Typically here you could go into Rebellion, you banish the boots, you add the rank of Magic Force, use it, you banish the Cherubini because you're not going to use it again. You turn it into a Requiem, and then on top of that, you have a Fogblade engraved that you haven't used. So you set the Gabu. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 monster negates. Just because. Yes, you've used your whole hand, and Nib probably will kill you right around here. But if they don't, I mean, it's kind of one of those games where, you know, if you don't have it, you don't have it. And again, you can build this any which way. I didn't open any kind of hand trap. I did, and mind you, there are different cards you can play to avoid half of this. Going second might be a little bit tougher because, you know, you already have to fight through a predisposed board. And, you know, at some point, maybe I'll show that off. But for now, this is what I've got. I think that the ukiyo-e, the punk engine is actually really, really, really good. And I think I'll probably use it a lot more. I kind of want to try a salad build for it next because I feel like I could use the two to go into Mirage Thalio, turn that, bring out a Gazelle, dump a Spinny, go into. Okay, I'm mumbling now. You know, I'm going off of my combos that I didn't even think I knew I had, but I knew I had them. Ignore that. That's it for now. Talk to y'all later.